Wait, don't scroll just yet. You are meant to hear this right now. It's not just another message. It's a divine signal, a sacred moment tailor-made just for you. No, this isn't ordinary encouragement. What you're about to receive is a spiritual instruction that could completely shift the direction of your life, but only if you're ready to receive it. Right now, you're being told to do something that feels completely unnatural. Be silent. Yes, silence, when everything around you demands noise. When the pressure mounts, when people twist your intentions, when you're pushed to explain yourself, defend your name, or clap back at the disrespect. But in the middle of all this chaos, there's a divine whisper telling you to hold your tongue. Not out of fear, not because you're powerless, but because silence is your weapon now. It's your covering. It's your secret strategy. You may feel like your silence is a weakness, but it's actually your strength. The loudest victories are often born in the quietest battles. And the truth is, your silence is setting the stage for something heaven ordained. A shift is already in motion. A transition is underway. And the next move? It's not yours. It's God's. You've been walking through a season of misunderstanding. Explaining yourself has become exhausting. You've been misjudged, provoked, blamed. And deep down, you're tired. Tired of trying to justify your choices. Tired of being the bigger person while people pick at your peace. But here's what's unfolding behind the scenes. Heaven sees you. The struggle, the restraint, the nights you cried after biting your tongue. It's all being recorded. Not one moment has gone unnoticed. And now, in this sacred moment, you're being given permission to let go of the need to be understood. You don't need to win their approval. You don't need to match their energy. You don't even need to explain why you've been quiet lately. Because the one who sees your heart is already moving on your behalf. What brought you here today isn't just curiosity or coincidence. It's alignment. You've been asking for confirmation. You've been praying for a sign. This is it. This isn't just about silence for silence's sake. This is about divine timing. The enemy doesn't fear your volume. He fears your discipline. He fears when you hold your peace because that means you've chosen to trust God more than your emotions. And when that happens, heaven responds. You're entering a season where those who have mocked you, those who spoke against you, those who doubted your calling, they're going to witness something they can't explain. Your breakthrough is going to speak louder than your defense ever could. But it will only happen if you can master the moment of silence. Think about this. God has done some of his greatest work in silence. When the Israelites were trapped between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea, he didn't instruct them to fight or shout. He told them to be still. And in that stillness, he made a way where there was none. He opened waters. He shut the mouths of their enemies. That's what silence does. It creates space for the supernatural. And here's the part no one tells you. Sometimes the most sacred things must be hidden in silence. Not because they aren't worthy of being shared, but because they're too precious to be exposed too soon. Like carrying a candle through a storm, one wrong move, one emotional reaction, one vulnerable outburst could blow out what was meant to ignite your future. Look at the story of Joseph, a young man with divine dreams, gifted with insight, favored with purpose. But he made a misstep. He spoke too soon. His brothers couldn't handle the vision he shared, and their jealousy sent him on a long detour filled with pain, betrayal, and delay. His words weren't wrong. His timing was. So what if your silence isn't about suppression, but about protection? What if your current quietness is heaven's way of shielding your promise until it's strong enough to stand? We often think staying quiet means we're giving up, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Silence, when it's divine, is an act of war. It's a statement that says, I refuse to react the way the world wants me to. I choose higher ground. And that's exactly what you're being called to right now. Higher ground. The silence you're being asked to keep is not permanent. It's purposeful. It's the kind of silence that precedes a miracle. Just like the walls of Jericho, which didn't fall after noise, they fell after strategy. The Israelites walked around the wall for 6 days in complete silence. No words, no music, no explanations, just obedience. And then, after 7 days, one unified sound brought the entire stronghold crashing down. God is applying that same blueprint in your life. The silence you're sitting in is not a sign that nothing is happening. It's proof that everything is happening, but invisibly, quietly, strategically, because God works best in the shadows, behind the curtain, while the enemy thinks you've been muted. What he doesn't know is that your silence is pregnant with purpose. You may be surrounded by people who think your silence means defeat. Let them think that. Let them misunderstand. Because soon, the shift will come, and your actions will reveal what your words never needed to explain. The enemy's greatest weapon right now isn't destruction, it's distraction. He wants you reactive. He wants you impulsive. He wants you to speak when God said wait. Because he knows one sentence, spoken out of emotion, can undo months of progress. Think back to those moments when you were baited. The arguments that weren't worth having. The accusations that twisted your peace into knots. The words you typed and then deleted because something inside told you, don't do it. That wasn't fear. That was wisdom. Because the enemy doesn't win by defeating you directly. He wins by provoking you to self-sabotage. You're being given a second chance right now to take back your power by taking control of your response. Let the whisper of God guide you, not the roar of conflict. Let restraint become your superpower. The power you carry is too precious to be wasted on people who only want a reaction. Your peace is too valuable to be sacrificed for the sake of proving a point. And your calling is too divine to be diluted by distractions. So pause, breathe, and remember, what God is doing in your life requires silence because it's sacred. You are carrying something holy. Don't let noise ruin what heaven is building. Soon, you won't have to say a word. Your results will speak volumes. Your transformation will be undeniable. Your glow up will be your response. And those who are watching, waiting, judging will have nothing left to say. This is your moment of sacred stillness. Stay in it. Protect it. Honor it. Because the breakthrough that's coming next, it doesn't need your words. It just needs your trust. The adversary knows this. If he can pull you out of patience and into reaction, if he can make you speak from impulse instead of purpose, he can slow down everything meant for you. But something is shifting now. The trap is being exposed before you ever step into it. Your silence isn't you surrendering. It's you stepping into strategy. The real question becomes, will you guard what's sacred, or will you hand the enemy the reaction he's been craving? I need you to grasp this, because once you do, silence will never feel the same again. Many of you think your quietness makes you disappear. You think that by refusing to argue, you're somehow being weak. That's a lie. I'm about to dismantle it. When you were formed in your mother's womb, did God announce it with trumpets? Did he broadcast your name to the world before you took your first breath? No. The most sacred act of creation happened in stillness, hidden under layers of skin, in a place of darkness and development. You were knit together in silence until the appointed moment of revelation. And that's exactly what's happening now. Elijah learned this too. He expected God to show up in the earthquake, in the wind, in the fire. But when heaven spoke, it was in a whisper, quiet, yet powerful enough to shift history. Not the chaos, not the spectacle, but the still small voice. Only those disciplined enough to listen could hear it. Right now, you've been trying to defend yourself with words, when heaven is defending you with silence. You've been explaining yourself to people who were never supposed to understand your assignment. Every time you open your mouth to justify, to argue, to prove yourself, you're interrupting the orchestration happening on your behalf. Look at Jesus. Before every miracle, before feeding the 5,000, before walking on water, before calling Lazarus from the tomb, he withdrew. He didn't announce his plan. He didn't post a schedule. He didn't defend his methods to skeptics. He stepped away, aligned with the Father, and then moved with such power the crowds had no words. Stop over-explaining your decisions to those who question every move. Stop trying to defend your choices to family members who have already made up their minds. Stop reacting to every critic who hurls stones at your character. Your silence isn't an empty pause. It's filled with faith, filled with strategy, filled with divine presence that's building an invisible wall around your destiny no darkness can break. The adversary wants you talking because while you're defending, you're not advancing. While you're explaining, you're not elevating. While you're reacting, you're not receiving the downloads God wants to place in your spirit. This is what so many people don't realize about spiritual warfare. The battle isn't just about what's said to you. It's about what's trying to come out of you. And right now, chosen one, you're in the middle of a test. This test isn't about whether you can stand up for yourself. It's about whether you can stay silent when everything in you screams to react. You feel isolated, don't you? Like even God has gone quiet. Like he's standing at a distance while voices tear you apart. You're thinking, if you're really with me, why aren't you defending me? Why does my silence feel like abandonment? Listen closely. Heaven's silence is not absence. It's presence on another level. It's proof that something greater is being formed in the hidden space. Look at Job. Everything was stripped away. His wealth, his health, his reputation. His friends accused him of sin. His wife told him to curse God and die. And yet Job held his tongue. For 37 chapters, he wrestled quietly with questions that had no easy answers. And what happened? God showed up in a whirlwind and restored double. Look at David, hidden in caves, running from a king determined to kill him, writing psalms in the darkness while his enemies celebrated above ground. He could have built an army to clear his name. He could have rallied support to defend his reputation. Instead, he stayed silent and waited until heaven's timing aligned with heaven's purpose. Do you see it now? Your silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. God isn't testing your voice. He's testing your trust. Every moment you choose quiet over reaction, you're proving to heaven that you can handle what's coming next. The enemy whispers. Your silence means you're weak. You're defeated. You've given up. But heaven declares something entirely different. Your silence means you're ready for promotion. You've learned to trust my timing over your emotions. This test isn't about your lips. It's about your heart. God is watching to see if you'll panic when he goes quiet, or if you'll rest in the knowledge that his silence is strategic, not personal. The very thing that feels like your greatest weakness, this forced silence, this inability to defend yourself, is about to become your greatest strength. Because when heaven moves for someone who trusted in silence, the whole world notices. But the question remains, will you pass this test? Or will you speak too soon and delay what has already been prepared for you? Right now, God is performing surgery on your life. And you must understand something about divine surgery. You don't shout in the operating room. You don't question the surgeon's hands. You lie still and let him work. Your situation isn't ruined. It's being rebuilt. That job you lost, that relationship that ended, that family member who turned against you. Every cut, every incision, every painful moment is removing what's been blocking your destiny. Of course, you want to scream. You want to explain. You want them to understand. That's human. But think of David. His own family mocked him. His wife despised him. King Saul hunted him like prey. Don't you think he wanted to speak up? But watch what he did. In 1 Samuel 24, David had Saul trapped in a cave. One word from David, and his men would have killed the man who was trying to destroy him. Instead, David stayed silent. He cut off a piece of Saul's robe and walked away. Why? Because David understood what so few ever do. When you stay quiet, God speaks loud. Here's the truth many never realize. Every time you defend yourself, you rob heaven of the chance to vindicate you. Every time you explain yourself, you take the microphone away from God. And heaven is saying right now, if you stay silent now, I'll speak for you later. And when I speak, no one will question it. Think about Jesus before Pilate. Don't you know I have the power to crucify you? Pilate demanded. And yet Jesus remained silent, because he knew his silence was about to trigger the greatest comeback in human history. Your silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. You're not being passive. You're being positioned. While they're talking, heaven is working. While they're scheming, your vindication is being orchestrated. This quiet moment you're in, it's not the end. It's the beginning of a bigger move. The whispers of heaven are louder than the shouts of opposition. The stillness is full of motion. And soon, the world will see what your silence has been protecting. Stay steady. Guard your heart. Protect your peace. Because while they underestimate your quiet, heaven is preparing your unveiling. So now, here's the question that could define the next chapter of your life. Can you trust him enough not to defend yourself? Can you let your silence become your strength instead of your shame? Because here's the truth. The warrior who sharpens their sword in silence strikes with greater impact than the one who broadcasts their intentions for all to hear. The quiet space you're walking through, that's not emptiness. That's your preparation room. That's where your breakthrough is being formed, quietly, invisibly, powerfully. Stillness is not inactivity. It's intention. And while you're being refined in silence, heaven is preparing to echo with the sound of your victory. But the question remains, will you remain still long enough to let God speak so loudly that the entire world takes notice? Chosen one, this is not just spiritual talk. This is your battle plan. You've been asking for direction, and now heaven is handing you the blueprint. This is how you fight without raising your voice. This is how you rise without chasing applause. First, guard your mouth. Words are not harmless. They carry weight. They shape worlds. Every sentence you speak either nurtures your destiny or sabotages it. When you're in the presence of God, yes, speak, declare his promises, proclaim your faith, breathe life over every dry place in your spirit. But when you're surrounded by provokers, those who push, poke, and prod, you must seal your lips. Don't take the bait. Don't give them what they want. Your silence in those moments isn't passive. It's prophetic. When you hold your tongue, you hold on to your future. Remember, life and death reside in the tongue, and you've been unknowingly handing over power every time you let anger speak louder than grace. Second, protect your circle. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your process. You've been bleeding emotionally because you've been vulnerable with people who don't have the capacity to understand your calling. You're showing pearls to those who only recognize pebbles. Some people aren't clapping for your growth. They're watching you like a reporter watches a story, ready to leak your lowest moments. They're not friends. They're informants. Even Jesus set boundaries. He withdrew from the masses, not because he didn't care, but because he needed stillness to align with power. If the Son of God had to protect his space, why wouldn't you? Your silence isn't antisocial. It's intentional. You're carving out a space where miracles can grow without being poisoned by outside noise. Third, guard your thoughts. The battlefield isn't always around you. Sometimes it's within. The war you're fighting isn't just with critics. It's with that internal voice that says you're not enough, that you need to speak up to prove your worth. Silence that voice through prayer, through scripture, through truth. Speak God's promises over your racing thoughts until his voice is the only one that matters. That's not a religious practice. That's warfare. When the storms rage in your mind, quote truth like it's your sword. Peace I leave with you. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. He who began a good work in me will complete it. Now, here's the moment where everything turns. Every time you resist the urge to react, every time you choose stillness over defense, you are thundering in the spirit louder than any voice in the natural realm ever could. That restraint you're showing is not weakness. It's alignment. It's heaven preparing to move on your behalf. Because when you master this level of obedience, when you guard your mouth, your space, and your mind with surgical precision, the same God who split oceans and silenced lions is about to part every single obstacle standing in the way of your destiny. And as we bring this sacred moment to a close, I need you to carry these 3 truths deep within your spirit. First, your silence is not surrendered. It is spiritual strategy. It's not forever. It's a pause before the reveal, a breath before the breakthrough. When God asks you to stay quiet, he's not muting you. He's positioning you for a moment where your transformation will speak volumes. When you stay still, you make room for heaven to roar. Second, this season of silence is temporary. But what it's forming in you will last forever. The discipline of guarding your mouth, protecting your peace, and quieting your thoughts, those are not just habits. They're spiritual tools. Tools that you'll carry into the next dimension God is preparing for you. Because elevation requires restraint. Third, your obedience in the secret place never goes unnoticed. When you choose silence, even when it's painful, even when it feels unjust, even when no one else understands, heaven takes note. And God rewards that kind of obedience, not with small blessings, but with earth-shaking testimonies. You may feel alone, but you're not. Behind the curtain, angels are moving. Prayers you haven't even heard are being spoken on your behalf. And right now, across this world, there are others just like you, learning to trust God more than their emotions. You are not just an individual fighting a battle. You are part of a remnant that is learning how to move when God says move, and to wait when he says wait. This is not just about personal victory. This is about becoming a living example to a watching world, showing them what it means to truly trust God. So let me ask you this. What if your silence today becomes tomorrow's testimony? What if the very thing that feels like you're losing is actually preparing you for the greatest restoration of your life? Before you step away from this moment, let me cover you in prayer, because I believe heaven is leaning in right now. Father, I lift up every heart that has heard this word. You know their battles. You've seen their hidden tears. You know the strength it has taken to stay silent when everything in them wanted to scream. I ask you now, wrap them in your peace. Flood their space with your presence. Let them feel your nearness right now, greater than any attack, louder than any lie. Open doors they didn't even knock on. Silence the voices rising against them. Vindicate them so clearly that even their enemies recognize your hand. Strengthen them for just one more day of faith. Let their silence become the soil where miracles are born. And when the time is right, give them words that carry the power of heaven itself. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. If something inside you shifted during this message, if you felt heaven speaking through every sentence, don't keep it to yourself. Let your voice be heard, not through argument or defense, but through testimony. Drop a comment. Say, I receive this. Or share a moment where you've chosen silence and watched God move. Let this space be a place where others are encouraged by your strength. And please share this video. Someone out there is ready to give up. Someone is exhausted from trying to explain themselves. And your simple act of sharing could be the lifeline that changes everything for them. Thank you for staying all the way through this word. Your willingness to listen until the very end tells me that your heart is open and your spirit is ready. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because this isn't the end of the message. More is coming. Heaven isn't done speaking to you. Remember this always. Your silence today is sowing the seeds of tomorrow's testimony. Trust the process, Trust the pause, Trust the God who speaks loudest in your stillness. Until we meet again in the next word, stay quiet, stay faithful, and watch God.